الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Okay, so inshallah today's lecture is going to be very strange thing. So it's just various topics actually. The first topic is going to be about the age of Sayyidah Aisha. And as you know, it's in many books it's written that it is mutawatir. So just to revise what scholars said about the age of Sayyidah Aisha when she was engaged before the migration and when Rasulullah did set up the wedding after the migration. So there is disagreement actually, big disagreement. Not only the contemporary scholars, but even the classical scholars such as Ibn Hisham, Ibn Ishaq, they do not agree with the narration of Muslim and Bukhari. Anyway, we're going to go through. That's the first thing. And the second is about the Banu Qurayza. So did Muslims finish off all of them or not? The next is the matter of the isnads, the main isnad of the book of Al-Wasiyya of Abu Hanifa. But if we will have enough time, I want to go through the chains of all of the books of Abu Hanifa just to have an idea, as well as we will touch upon the asanid of the rest of the books, which is very beneficial. And then two very important topics. One is, where does God live right now? Where is he sitting or standing or whatever he's doing? Where is he right now? And that is, as you know, the main foundation of the aqeeda of the brothers from Salafi background. And the last topic is about Allah sitting on the throne. So he's not settling as istiwa, but sitting. There is a hadith in which Rasulullah actually says that Allah is sitting on the throne, and there is a gap of empty space on top of the throne, on the size of 4 fingers, on which hadith says that Rasulullah will be sitting in the day of judgment. Rasulullah says in that hadith, which I will be quoting, that Rasulullah actually will be sitting with God, both of them sitting next to each other on the throne. Okay, so anyway, these are the main topics, inshallah. First of all, the age of Sayyidah Aisha. We all know that, mashallah, now a majority of the scholars say that it is mutawatir that Sayyidah Aisha was at the age of 6 when she was engaged, okay, to Rasulullah, and that was about 2 years before the migration. So after the death of Sayyidah Khadija, after about 1 year, within 1 year after the death, means after that migration took place, and wedding was after about 1 year averagely. So in total, there was 3 years between the engagement and the wedding. Okay, but then wedding in Arabic language doesn't mean to have sexual activities. Wedding means when lady moves to her husband's house. New husband's house means they are starting their family life, family journey. But what about the sexual activities, etc.? It's not included into the wedding. Okay, so anyway, as you know, the main opinions are that it is 6 and 9. Where did it come from? So the first is Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim together. They did narrate the hadith, in which hadith is narrated from Sayyidah Aisha, in which she says, تزوجني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنا ابن 6 سنين وبنى بي وأنا بنت 9 سنين. Means Rasulullah ﷺ married me, we were engaged when I was 6 years old, and then I did move to his house, means having wedding and living in the same place, and I was 9 years old. So that is the narration of both of Muslim and Bukhari. But Imam Muslim brings another narration in which again it's from Sayyidah Aisha, in which Sayyidah Aisha says Rasulullah ﷺ actually did get engaged. They set up the engagement, and she was 7 years old. Okay, but in the same time it says that Sayyidah Aisha, the marriage and Sayyidah Aisha moving to Rasulullah ﷺ's house, it was when she was 9 years old. So only the disagreement in the narrations in the Bukhari and Muslim narration, it says 6 years old when engagement took place. But in the different narration in which Imam Muslim narrates by himself, hadith says that Sayyidah Aisha was 7 years old. Both of the narration from from Sayyidah Aisha. Okay, and chain of that is authentic. And the scholars who said, tried to give interpretation, they said that Sayyidah Aisha was above 6 years. 6 years and a few months. And for that age, it's permissible to be told 6 as well as 7. Okay, so that is one proof that Sayyidah Aisha was 6 years old when engagement took place. That's the first proof. As well as the second thing, the second issue, we do know that Sayyidah Aisha passed away when she was 63 years old. Okay, we do have some authentic narrations on that. As well as when exactly it was. It was on 57th of Hijrah. Please, can anyone help us with calculation, please? So if it was 57th of Hijrah and Sayyidah Aisha was 63 years old. So then when so before how many years before the migration Sayyidah Aisha was born, please? Can you help me? Yes, greatest mathematician, please.
6 years.
6 years before the so it was 57 Hijri, yeah, and Sayyidah Aisha was 63, sorry, 63. So how many years? It's 8 years, am I right? 8 years? Or 6 years? Okay, so in that case, if you just so even the calculation is going to be a bit less than what is in the narration of Bukhari and Muslim, am I right? So 6 years before the Hijrah means, if we take it literally, so it will be that because Sayyidah Aisha, she has been engaged to Rasulullah before 2 years before migration. Okay, and Sayyidah Aisha was born 6 years before the migration, before the Hijrah, means what was the age of Sayyidah Aisha? According to this narration.
4.
4.
Because she's born 6 years before.
4.
So think, yeah.
So the numbers are here. 57th of Hijri, Sayyidah Aisha passed away. Okay, and she was 63 years old. 63 years old. 63 years old. Means, so that is the Hijrah, year of Hijrah. So then when Sayyidah Aisha was born before the Hijrah, we say 6 years before the Hijrah. Am I right? And we know that Rasulullah married her after the death of Sayyidah Khadija within about 1 year. And after 2 years, Rasulullah migrated. Am I right? So then take off 2 years, which is 2 years before the migration. Okay? And then it will end up of being 4 years old. Means the actual, according to this narration, the actual age of Sayyidah Aisha in the time of engagement, okay, was 4 years old. Okay? But then the authors, some of the scholars who follow the opinion that Sayyidah Aisha was 6 years old, they follow the calculation. Okay, they say, okay, actually these 6 years, because Arabians, when it is 6 years and few months, they consider it as 6 years, but it is actually 7 years. Okay, so we add 1 year, as well as in here we do add another 1 year. You know, so then we'll bring it to be again 6 years. Okay, but the literal meaning of this narration, that Sayyidah Aisha was 4 years old when she was engaged to Rasulullah before 2 years before the migration. Because according to this narration, Sayyidah Aisha was born 6th year before the Hijrah. Okay, means we're getting even less than 6. Okay, so according to the narration of Imam Muslim, she was 7 years. According to the narration of Bukhari and Muslim, 6 years. According to this narration, 4 years old. Okay, so then scholars actually they do use some certain way of calculation, because Arabians normally when they say I spent, for example, in Saudi 1 year, so means 1 year and few months. Okay, so they follow that way to bring back 4 to 6.
There's 3 calculation variables there.
Yeah.
And each variable that you mentioned, is that a different hadith? Or is that
all of them based on the hadith, in different hadiths, not only one.
Oh, okay.
But I brought all of the hadiths just to calculate.
Could you give us the hadith for each estimate?
I'm going to leave the references with NDI, inshallah.
Yeah.
So maybe it will be uploaded. So all of the reference books will be here, inshallah. Okay.
So it's also Sheikh Sahih that she died at the age of 63. 60. So that's also a Sahih.
Correct. Yeah, that's agreed upon. One of the agreed upon issues actually.
And it's also agreed that they got married 6 years. The marriage took place in the year of Hijrah. Did you say?
2 years. 2 years before the.
2 years before Hijrah.
Yeah. And after the migration, within the first year, Rasulullah, she moved to the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
And it's also agreed that she was 6 years. She was born 6 years before Hijrah.
So that's what I'm trying to go through.
So
as you can see, there is no agreement.
Right.
So narration of Bukhari and Muslim that it was 6 years. She was 6 years. And then Imam Muslim brought another narration from Sayyidah Aisha again that she was 7. And according to the third narration, it comes out as 4. So I'm trying to prove that so far we do not have only one clear-cut agreed upon narration. But anyway, it is still the people who believe that Sayyidah Aisha was engaged to Rasulullah at the age of 6. They do use the narration of the calculations, but then they add up, the bits and bytes to bring them back to be 6 again. Okay, so they say, even in English language, so if you will spend 1 year and 3 months, for example, in America, what do you say? You will say, I spent 1 year. Okay, so it is the same way of Arabians, So even if it is, for example, 2 years and 3 months, for example, they will say 2 years. Okay, so that's why they add up the bits and bytes, as I did explain. So to add 1 year in each these numbers, so then they just bring it back to be again 6. So just to make this narration to accord the narration of 6 actually, the narration of Bukhari and Muslim.
And each hadith that mentions these variables, they're all authentic, you're saying?
Yes, or at least Hasan, still authentic. Okay. And again, the fourth narration, it is coming from Abu Nu'aym al-Asbahani. It is in Ma'rifatul Sahaba, in his history book about the Sahaba, that Sayyida Asma was born. Sayyida Asma, the sister, elder sister of Aisha radiallahu anha, she was born something about 10 years before the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so now let's agree on one thing. So now I will carry on using before the prophethood. So that is according to the Asharis. I'm using the Ashari way because according to Asharis, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became prophet at the age of 40. But according to the Maturidis, we say that Rasulullah was prophet even before Adam was created. According to the Ahadith. Okay, once Rasulullah has been asked, when you became prophet, متى كنت نبيا? So Rasulullah said, كنت نبيا وآدم بين الماء والتراب. So I've been prophet, okay, even before Adam was created. Okay, so anyway, so when I say before the prophethood of Rasulullah, so that is according to Asharis. Yeah, so I'm Maturidi. Anyway. So Sayyidah Asma was born 10 years before the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and there is again agreed upon opinion, or the most reliable opinion, or at least it is according to the nephew of Sayyidah Aisha and Asma that the difference between Sayyidah Aisha and the age and Sayyidah Asma is 10 years. Okay, so let's say that according to these narrations, Sayyidah Aisha Sayyidah Asma was born 10 years before the Hijrah. And then there is agreed upon opinion that the difference between Aisha and Asma 10 years. Means Sayyidah Aisha was born in the first year of the prophethood. 10 years. So that's how it will work. Am I right?
Hazrat Asma was born 10 years before prophethood or before Hijrah?
Before prophethood, sorry.
Before prophethood.
I'm sorry, it is not Hijrah, it is before prophethood.
Right.
I did just mix up because it's coming to be the next issue. But anyway, let's go back to the first three narrations. As you can see, so 7, 6 and 4. But then Imam Nawawi explained that 7 and 6 there is no any controversiality. Why? Because Sayyidah Aisha actually was 6 years and few months. Okay, when she has been engaged with Rasulullah. So then for that age you can say 6 as well as 7. But what about the narration calculation of Sayyidah Aisha being 4 years old? Because she passed away at 57th of Hijrah and she was 63 years old. So it will end up of being that Sayyidah Aisha was born 6 before Hijrah. Okay, means when Rasulullah was engaged with her 2 years before Hijrah, means her age was 4 years old. But then the same group of scholars, they say it's because of the Arabian calculation. So bits and bytes, they do not consider it as anything. So then they just bring it back to be again 6 years. Okay. So that is, and the last thing actually, the last thing I would say, the same group of brothers say anyone who doesn't go with this one, this opinion, so they are actually criticizing the Sahih al-Bukhari authenticity of Bukhari and Muslim. Okay, so then how come that the most authentic book after Quran is Bukhari and Muslim? Okay, so if you do not accept it, so then means what you can accept then? Okay, so these are the main things. So for me, it seems a bit strange actually, because mainly it's the Salafi brothers actually. They say that I mean the last statement is their statement. If you do not accept, if you are ashamed to admit that Rasulullah married some girl at the age of 6, so does it mean that because of you being ashamed that you will criticize Bukhari and Muslim? Well, Sheikh Nasr al-Albani did criticize few ahadith in both of Bukhari and Muslim. So then why no one said that Albani is doubting on the authenticity of the most authentic book? So the last thing is not acceptable. Am I right? So when when some of the scholars disagree with these opinions, so it's not because they are doubting on authenticity of Bukhari and Muslim, but maybe they're comparing it with some other narratives. Anyway, so that is the first position. Yes.
Sheikh, can I take a diversion? What's the proof that Bukhari is the most authentic book after the Quran? Doesn't Quran say that if there's any book from anyone other than Allah, it will have many mistakes? So doesn't that mean Bukhari is not from Allah? It's just like
it makes sense because the Bukhari has been narrated by people. Okay, so the meaning of Bukhari being most authentic after Quran because of the conditions of Imam Bukhari to accept or to not to accept the ahadith. So he was very strict. So it's because of the meaning of that is because of that, or otherwise there are many controversialities within the hadith of Bukhari in itself. Okay, But anyway, it is going to be, inshallah, in the topic of the chains of the books of Abu Hanifa, because we need to include the Bukhari's books also. Inshallah, we'll talk about it then. Now, the second category of scholars, they say if you just bring all of the narrations on the table, so then you have to admit that the age of Sayyidah Aisha at least has to be something between 18 to 24, within that age, in the year of engagement. When and after 3 years they were they did live together. Okay, so let's revise the narrations, which makes us to think that she was something about 18 or 24. Yes, what's the question?
Where does 9 come into?
Sorry?
9.
9
They say
because
that they were married at 9.
it's the same. No. They are okay. Being married, I meant them living in the same place.
Right.
So at the age of 6, they were engaged,
Okay.
but they didn't live together till after the migration. After 1 year after the migration.
Okay, but some of the, from what I've heard, the narrations, they say that they were engaged at 6.
6, yes,
and they
yes.
were married at 9.
Yeah. So marriage, bana alayha. Bana alayha means, we can say as marriage, but bana alayha means living in the same house. So say the Aisha moving to live with Rasulullah alayhi salam.
What I want to, basically, the consummate at 9.
No. That's what I said in the beginning. Right. So living together or marrying doesn't mean having sexual intercourse. But
right.
Moving, say the Aisha moving to her husband's house.
At 18, then they have consummate.
No. Now 18 doesn't have anything.
Okay, sorry.
So you did mix up one thing.
Yeah.
So according to the narration of Imam Bukhari and Muslim, before 2 years before the migration, they were engaged, offer and accept, witnesses, mahar, etc. Okay. And after 3 years, after that, plus 3 years, after the migration, after 1 year, Sayyidah Aisha moved into the house of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Did you understand? So, in this narration of Bukhari and Muslim, there is no anything to do with number 18, with age of 18. So now I did finish all of these narrations. Now I'm going to the opposite position in which they say that Aisha, when Rasulullah married her, she wasn't 6, but she was between 18 to 24. Now, where are the proofs? Now I'm going to mention the proofs of the second group.
When you say married, you mean living together?
No, offer and accept, engagement. So, what first group says 6, now the second group say between 18 to 24. Okay, and then what the first group say 9, so then you have to add up another 3 years according to the second group. Did you understand?
The question, so for example, what the first group say, they got engaged at 6, they got married at 9, but 9 doesn't mean that they actually...
She moved in. No, that's what it means.
Yeah, so I mean
she did move in. But in terms of sexual activity, it's nothing to do with a wife moving into the husband's house, you know?
So that what does that group say about that? Where did that happen?
There is nothing,
Right, okay.
nothing mentioned in any of the two groups. So just to clarify, it's from me. Clarification that bana alayha in Arabic language does mean the sexual activity, but it means that she did move into the husband's house.
At what age?
9.
9.
According to the first narration.
According to the first
group. First group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sheikh, this is very important that the Arabic phrase doesn't mean sexual relations, because what the majority of people say when this question is asked Muslims, they say they were married at 6 or engaged. They might change these words around, and then they say the marriage was consummated at 9. So like that gives more like implication of like actual physical relationship, as opposed to like wife moves into the house, maybe it might be years, so. So the word doesn't mean consummated, it just means...
Was she...
so the word is said, just a moment, in Arabic language it says Bana alayha means, bana is coming from building. Building on her means, in terms of her moving into the Rasulullah house, it was at the age of 9. Please go to the dictionary. Okay, Arabic, English dictionaries, any of them, and check the root of the word of bina. Bina is building.
So
Okay, so when a wife moves into the husband's house after the engagement or after offer and accept, they call bana alayha, means she did move into his house.
So Sheikh, what would be in the kind of language that Bukhari and the classical scholars, classical Arabic, what would be the phrase they would use for sexual relations, so we can see the difference? Like, you know, definitely to have physical contact.
Jima, that is a sexual intercourse.
And is that word in Bukhari, Muslim, anywhere about at 9 they had jima or sexual intercourse or anything like this? Is not mentioned.
Aisha says, we did have this, and after that we took ghusl from the same jug.
At the age of 9?
No.
No mention.
No. I'm quoting from the hadith in which they are talking about the sexual intercourse. They are using this word.
So and it's not used for when she moved in at 9.
No. This means moved in. But
So-
this one, but it's two separate things, you know.
Okay, Sheikh,
But this one, jima, is not mentioned in the narration of Sayyid Aisha moving in.
So when we in Dawah we say they consummated the marriage at 9, it's an
wrong.
assumption. There's no proof.
Consummating is a sexual intercourse.
Yes.
You basically.
Where did you get? It's not from this word, you know. This word means because husband is responsible to provide the bina, to provide the property for the wife to live. So that's what it means.
So even the first group
Yeah.
does not mean that the marriage was consummated at 9.
It is agreed upon opinion that this word never means. So yeah,
So
unless
even the people that believe that
Yeah.
she was engaged at 6
Yeah.
and married at 9,
Nine.
don't
They say
believe that they was consummated.
no, because it's not in the hadith.
Yeah.
In the
But
hadith,
doesn't it normally apply when you get married? That's what happens.
Well, not in Arabic, isn't it? It's different.
No. Bana alayha, it doesn't mean no. It is something like you can say natural thing for you. If you will marry, so we as Asians, we have to do it in the first night, and even there are some cultures which is not very good, so they have to show the blood also, you know, which is very, very bad. According to Islam, it's very, very bad.
Yes.
Because you're disclosing what your wife is, you know, and that is considered as the youth, you know, the meaning of the youth, who doesn't have jealousy about his wife, you know,
Yeah.
to describe her private things, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that one. Bana alayha means she did move into his house and they're living together actually.
Was she physically mature at 9?
It's another good question, but normally we say the maturity age will start from the age of 9. Okay, but then there is narration in which Abu Bakr Siddiq actually asks, okay, according to this one, to this opinion,
Yeah.
that in terms of she reaching and bleeding, you know, and then after that she has been sent according to this position that she did move into the husband's house.
So she was physically mature,
Yes, correct, yes.
according to this group.
No, there is narration. They do
Yeah.
quote this group, quote that hadith that Abu Bakr Siddiq asked his wife
Yeah.
about did she start bleeding, etc.
Yeah.
And then she replied yes, so then actually they brought it as like to live with the husband.
So that hadith about bleeding is linked to the moving.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Quoting the
Because
same
because
hadith.
now she became mature and now it's the husband's responsibility to maintain and to provide property
Right.
and food and etc. So
Okay.
that's the meaning of bana alayha. But the
Okay.
thing that you're talking about, sexual intercourse, is jima'.
Okay.
Okay, and sometimes they may use the word of khala biha. Khala biha means it's coming from the root of khalwa. Khalwa is to stay alone. So for example, you will say, my brother married some lady, wa khala biha, and after that they spent alone together. Okay, so that's another word. Okay, and another word could be dakhala biha. Dakhala biha. Dakhala biha means he went into the isolated place with her. And again, this word not necessarily means the sexual intercourse. Okay, because even in Hanafi madhab we say that let's suppose that I married some lady and then I did this. Okay, so we spent half an hour in isolated place, and after that I divorced my wife and I came out and I said in front of the judge that I didn't have any sex. Okay, so then judge will accept what I said, because this doesn't mean the sexual act, but only to be in one room, alone, on our own, you know. So that is the first narration, first opinion. Okay. So now the second group, as I said, the second group, they say when you compare all of the narrations, you cannot accept that she was 4 or 6 or 7 years old where there was engagement. But actually, if you go through the narrations, so it should be something between 18, up to 23, 24 years old. That's engagement. Okay, what first group says 6, so they say between 18 to 24. So now let's revise the proofs of the second group. So as you know, there is a book. There is book of Ibn Hisham. Okay, so it's one of the most classical books in terms of the biography, as well as there is another book of the Tarikh of Tabari. So them two scholars, they say in terms of when exactly Sayyidah Aisha was born. So they say ولدت عائشة قبل الإسلام في عصر الجاهلية. So Sayyidah Aisha was born before Islam. What's the meaning of before Islam? Before Rasulullah started the mission, في عصر الجاهلية, in the Jahili century, in the Jahili side. So if you so means at least to admit it, at least she has to be 1 year old at least when Islam came. For Tabari and Ibn Hisham to say that she was born in the Jahiliyyah time. Am I right? As a minimum.
So this is Ibn Hisham and Tabari?
Both.
Okay. So they contradict the Bukhari?
No, definitely. So the first narration, at least 1 year before Hijrah, before the prophethood. Am I right? Means something about 13 years before Hijrah. Because Rasulullah spent something about 13 years in Mecca and then migration and 10 years in Medina. Am I right? So anyway, before 13 years before Hijrah means at least Sayyidah Aisha had to be 1 year old. So for Tabari and Ibn Hisham to say that she was born in the time of Jahiliyyah means as a minimum, the age of Sayyidah Aisha can be at least about 11 years. When Rasulullah was engaged. Am I right? Why? Because 2 years before the migration, and Sayyidah Aisha was born 1 year before the prophethood in the time of Jahiliyyah. So that will be something about 11, 12 years. Okay? But that we are taking as a minimum. But as a maximum, it could be even 10, 11 years before. The most important thing in here is that she was born in the time of Jahiliyyah. So as a minimum, 1 year old when Rasulullah started the mission. Or it could be more. But we are going with the worst case. Okay? So that's the one proof. The next is Sirat ibn Hisham. Again, Ibn Hisham is a famous person. Okay, so anyone who narrates anything about the biography, so mainly they do go through Ibn Hisham. Because Ibn Hisham is the narrator of Ibn Ishaq. And Ibn Ishaq is only the main Sirah scholar. So what does he say? So Ibn Hisham was counting the first earliest generation of the Muslims, Sabiqun, what we call as Sabiqun. What's the meaning of Sabiqun? Anyone who became Muslim before Umar, radiallahu anhu. Okay? So then Ibn Hisham says, so he starts counting, so it is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, okay, and Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, and all of them, as well as Sa'id ibn Zayd, okay, as well as his wife Fatima bint al-Khattab, the sister of Umar al-Khattab, radiallahu anhum. And then he says Asma bint Abi Bakr wa Aisha bint Abi Bakr. Then he says وَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ صَغِيرًا. So one of the early Muslims means who became Muslim within the first 3 years is Sayyidah Asma and Sayyidah Aisha. Now, and then he says, Ibn Hisham says, وَهِيَ يَوْمَئِذٍ صَغِيرًا. Aisha, when she became Muslim, she was young. Now my question. So let's take that she was 6 years old when Rasulullah married her, and that was 2 years before the Hijrah. Means, according to this narration, when within the first 3 years of the prophethood, what was the age of Sayyidah Aisha?
She wouldn't have been born according to that, would she?
She was not born yet. In the best scenario, her mother, Ruman, will be pregnant by her. Okay? Means this doesn't match with that. Ibn Hisham's opinion and narration doesn't match with this narration. So let's be more specific. According to the Bukhari and Muslim's narration, let's say that Rasulullah spent 11 years after the age of 40. So at the age of 51, Rasulullah married her. Am I right? And after 3 years, she did move into his house. Means there is 11 years of the prophethood before he married her. And after 11 years of prophethood, she was only 6 years old. Means to classify that within the first 3 years, she was a Muslim according to the Ibn Hisham. So let's say that she became Muslim at the end of 3rd year, just to help out this group. So then, at the end of 3rd year, what was the age of Sayyidah Aisha? It was 2 years before she was born. Am I right? What do you think?
Yeah, it doesn't add up.
So 2 years before she was born. Am I right? Means, according to the narration of Ibn Hisham, she has to be at least. Please, can you give me some number to say that someone became Muslim and he was young? How old does he have to be? Breastfeeding baby, can we say that he became Muslim? Age of 3, 4. At the age of 3 and 4, according to both of Maturidi and Ash'ari, Shahada, witnessing testimony of Islam is not accepted. Only Abu Hanifa and Maturidis, they accept the testimony of the person who is not yet mature, but something about 1 year is remaining to be mature. So the minimum age of the maturity of the girls, according to the Maturidis, is 6. Means, in the worst scenario, she had to be, for Ibn Hisham to say that she became Muslim and she was young, she had to be 5 years old. And then at 11 years of prophethood, so it will end up of being 16 years. So in here is not 18 years. It's 16 years as a minimum, according to Ibn Hisham. Am I right? But we are trying to help out this group. Or otherwise, she was yet young. It could mean she was 12. Do we say for 12-year-old girl she was young? 12 years old. Of course. So it could be, but we are going just to help out this group. So we are taking the minimum possible age, which is 5. Okay, so according to Ibn Hisham, so that's what comes out. As well as Ibn Hisham and Tabari are not only the people who say that. So Ibn Hisham is not the person who says that Sayyidah Aisha was one of the earliest Muslims. The meaning of earliest Muslim, who became Muslim within the first 3 years. Okay, but Al-Mutahhar bin Tahir, or Al-Mutahhar bin Tahir, it is a scholar of Sirah, scholar of Hadith, who passed away at 4th century, 355. He also says that Sayyidah Aisha was one of the earliest Muslims. Okay, and he says, وَهِيَ صَغِيرًا. So then he says, even, he clarifies, carries on, saying, فَكَانَ إِسْلَامُ هَؤُلَاءِ فِي 3 سِنِينَ وَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ يَدْعُو فِي خُفْيَةٍ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَدْخُلَ دَارَ أَرْقَمْ ibn Abi al-Arqam. So the first, if you remember, in the first, after the latest stage, in the 3rd year, after the prophethood, Rasulullah did set up the first institute, the house of Arqam ibn Abi al-Arqam. So, Al-Hafiz Mutahhar bin Tahir Al-Maqdisi says that Sayyidah Aisha became Muslim even before Rasulullah did go into the house of Arqam ibn Abi al-Arqam. Okay? And the 3rd scholar who says it is Abu Qasim al-Suhaili, who was born at 508. So he also says that Sayyidah Aisha became Muslim in the actually first year of the prophethood. Because in here, I was helping out, saying that at the third year. But Suhaili, Abu Qasim al-Suhaili says that in the first year actually. Means we have to add up in here 2 more years, 2 more years for it to become 18 years. Okay, so that is the thing. So it is in terms of when she was born. Tabari as well as Ibn Hisham both say that in the time of Jahiliyyah, and when she became Muslim, so Ibn Hisham as well as Suhaili as well as Al-Hafiz al-Maqdisi, 3 of them, they said that she became Muslim as Sabiqat within the first 3 years, but further Suhaili says that in the first year, not within first 3 years, but in the first ever year. Okay, so it is 2 years before Umar radiallahu anhu. So the numbers are getting very strange actually. I don't know.
So Sheikh, this is very interesting, but what would someone, for example, a lot of people, like say ordinary people, will just say, well, we just ignore Ibn Hisham because Bukhari is more accurate.
No, it's not that, because Ibn Hisham is actually the main narrator of Ibn Ishaq, and no one did say that Ibn Hisham is a liar or weak. Everyone agrees that his book is authentic. So after agreeing that both of Bukhari and Ibn Hisham are authentic, so then why we should go to the extension to just ignore the narration, Okay, and it's not only the things, but even the next is going to be the quotation from Bukhari and Muslim about the age, which will support the second group actually. Okay, so now the next interesting incident, it is the incident of Badr, Ghazwatul Badr. So, Ghazwatul Badr, it was the first year after the migration. Am I right? So it is exactly the year in which Rasulullah said Aisha did move into the house of Rasulullah. Means she will be at the age of 9. Am I right? Same year. And then Sayyidah Aisha did narrate the story of how Badr happened. So in that she says very strange statement. So she says that one of the people actually, when we went with Rasulullah ﷺ, she says, I was there also. Then some of the disbelievers came. Okay, disbelievers came, and then he said, "Oh Muhammad, I want to follow you to fight against the Qurayshis." Okay, so then Rasulullah ﷺ said, do you take a witnessing that there is no God except one, and I am prophet? The person said, no, but I want to fight. Rasulullah ﷺ said, we will not seek protection from you against Qurayshis. Okay, so then he says, in that hadith she says, قالت, said Aisha is saying, ثم مضى حتى إذا كنا عند الشجرة أدركه الرجل. So after the first meeting with that person, we carried on, and when we went next to the tree, okay, so next to the tree, the same person came again, and then he did make the same offer, and then Rasulullah asked the same question, okay, and then the same conversation took. So in here, Sayyidah Aisha says, حتى إذا كنا عند الشجرة أو بالشجرة. So when we were means Sayyidah Aisha was there. So then it is narration of Imam Muslim. So then Imam Nawawi explains that Sayyidah Aisha was not one of those who actually went to the Badr, but actually she went to actually, as you can say, to say just without. Did you understand? Just to, you can say, take them to their destination. I mean, wherever they are going. Okay. But anyway, from this hadith, it shows that between the first meeting and the second meeting, there was quite a bit journey. Okay, and normally people wouldn't go except if they would be part of the army. And at the age of 9, Rasulullah wouldn't allow anyone to go to get engaged into the battle. Okay, but the second incident is even more clearer. It is the battle of Uhud, in which Sayyidah Aisha, according to the first opinion, would be only 10 years old. Am I right? So what happened? And Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu says, لما كان يوم أحد انهزم الناس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ولقد رأيت عائشة بنت أبي بكر وأم سليم وإنهما لمشمرتان أرى خدم سوقهم. And then he says, so anyway, Anas radiallahu anhu says, when people were actually, do you know that a problem happened in the Uhud, so then people just has been killed around Rasulullah. So then Anas radiallahu anhu says, so I saw Sayyidah Aisha and Sulaym, okay, and they did roll up their clothes and they were going and treating the ill people, injured people. Means 100% in here is not twistable. So maybe with a Badr you can do some certain thing, but in here non-twistable. That she took a share in the Ghazwat Uhud. And what is the age in which Rasulullah did allow the people to get engaged into the battle? What do you think?
Wasn't there some boys who wanted to be involved and they were like, I think 14 or something?
Excellent, yeah. So that's what they say. It is in the same incident, it is Uhud. So Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma says, Ibn Umar was 14 years old, okay? And he wanted to go to the battle. Rasulullah said that you are too young. But in the next year, when he was 15 years old, Rasulullah did allow him. Okay, so according to this hadith, the minimum age in which Rasulullah will allow anyone to get engaged to take a share in the battle is 15 years. Yes.
What if they say that she was just there like to do nursing, not...
No, that is the meaning of taking share. Now, even Ibn Umar wouldn't go to fight, but he would go to collect the arrows and to help out, you know?
Oh.
Okay, so the young people, that's what they will do. Okay, so that is another proof. So according to this narration means at least Sayyidah Aisha supposed to be 15 years as a minimum. Okay, means, but according to the first opinion, she will be at the age of 10 only. Okay, so but according to this narration, so then age of Sayyidah Aisha will be 5 years more. Means she was 11 years when she was engaged. Okay, and she was 14 years when she did move into the house of Rasulullah. Okay, so it is actually another strange facts. The next one, also they quote, the second group quote that Imam Bukhari radiallahu anhu narrates some hadith in which it is in the chapter, the narration of the Uhud is again from Bukhari, and this one is also from Bukhari, in which Sayyidah Aisha says, لقد أنزل على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بمكة وإني لجارية ألعب بل الساعة موعدهم والساعة أدهى وأمر. Bukhari narrates in the chapter of Tafsir that Sayyidah Aisha says, Allah revealed the following ayah. What is the ayah? بل الساعة موعدهم والساعة أدهى وأمر. It is Surah Al-Qamar. One ayah of Surah Al-Qamar. Sayyidah Aisha says, when this ayah has been revealed in Mecca, I used to be young girl playing. Okay, so now, when exactly Surah Al-Qamar has been revealed? So Imam Suyuti narrates hadith from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, in which Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu gives the order of the revelation of the surahs. Okay, so in that narration, Ibn Umar mentions both of all of the Surah Al-Fatiha, Iqra ya ayyuhal muzammil, Muddathir, as well as Qamar, as well as Surah Al-Kahf. Okay, and in terms of we know that Surah Al-Kahf has been revealed before the first migration to the Habasha, Amara, to the Ethiopia. And the migration to Ethiopia, it was the 5th year after the prophethood. Means Surah Al-Qamar was revealed before Surah Al-Kahf. Between Surah Al-Qamar and Kahf, there was 33 surahs that Ibn Abbas mentioned revealed in between, you know. Okay, so according to this narration, what should be the age of Sayyidah Aisha? Means at the year 5th of the prophethood, there was migration to the Ethiopia, but Kahf revealed before that. Okay, And then Surah Al-Qamar has been sent down before even Surah Al-Kahf, and there was 33 another surahs between Qamar and Kahf. So at least in the best situation, it was a third year of the prophethood. Sayyidah Aisha says, I used to be a girl playing when it has been revealed. So what will be the age when this surah, so the third of the prophethood, the third year of prophethood, what will be the age of Sayyidah Aisha? If she would be a girl playing.
She should be at least a toddler. Like she should at least be able to like play. Yeah, play.
Which is?
Maybe
5, 6, 7, even 8, you know. So let's say 5. Okay? And that was the year 3. So means, and then after that, after about 9 years, Rasulullah Islam married her. So what will be the age of Sayyidah Aisha then?
18 again.
12. So when brothers say here 6, so according to this narration will be 12. Okay, so maybe this narration is very, very matchable with what Tabari and Ibn Hisham said, that she was born in the Jahiliyyah. Because year 3 after the prophethood, she was 6. Means she was born in Jahiliyyah time.
So the first group focuses on the engagement. The second group focuses on
events. Not the marriage, No. I'm giving different events which happened just to find out what was the age of Sayyidah Aisha. So the first event I gave, then quotation from Tabari and Ibn Hisham, when exactly she was born.
So basically the main thing is that it's agreed upon that 1 year before they were engaged, and 2 years afterwards they were married, but now all the events are determining what the age was.
But the 16 and 24, that's to do with their marriage, this range.
Yeah. So
The 16, 24.
Yeah.
To do, because the first group.
So now I'm giving different narrations, which says that she supposed to be between 16 to 24.
But married or engaged?
The engagement, this one.
Okay, but I thought the second group doesn't agree with the 6 engagement.
No, so they both
agree on the 6 engagement.
No. They both agree that the engagement occurred 1 year before Hijrah and they married 2 years after.
Okay.
But now all these events determined that at that time what age was she.
So
the first narration
so
determined
1 year,
6 and the second.
1 year
So,
before.
look, Nami, so there are 3 narrations of the first group that is about engagement. But when she did move in, she was 9 years old. But what about the second group say? So far we gave so many narrations, and according to some, she was something about 16. What they say 764, according to the second group, it is 16 or 18, okay, and so on. But what about the Sayyidah Aisha moving into the house of Rasulullah after 3 years after these dates?
So on the right is engaged.
Engagement, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm giving different narrations. When you calculate them, her age is supposed to be like this, you know?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, that this one on the right,
Yeah.
the marriage date is different from that one.
No,
This
that's
is
exactly
9.
it.
Yeah. This is?
Not 9.
No, the marriage.
9 is in marriage.
She
Moving in.
to the Prophet's house.
So this side doesn't actually say when they got married.
No, everyone agrees it's 3 years after the engagement
Yeah.
is marriage. So if the engagement was at, like, let's say randomly 9, then the marriage would be 12. If it was 6, then it would be 9. If it's 18, 21. Like you said, everyone agrees it's 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 years after the engagement.
Yeah.
But the question is, when do they get engaged?
Yeah. So now, so the first thing I gave you in terms of when Sayyidah Aisha exactly was born. Tabari and Ibn Hisham said in the Jahiliyyah. Okay, and the second question was Ibn Hisham and Suhaili and Maqdisi, all of them, they say that Sayyidah Aisha one of the earliest Muslims. As well as Maqdisi says that she became Muslim in the first year of the prophethood. Okay, and after that I did quote that Sayyidah Aisha was in the Badr. And then I gave you the narration. But then Imam Nawawi gave some certain interpretation. But then I did quote from Imam Bukhari again that Sayyidah Aisha was in Uhud as a soldier, okay? And then agreed upon opinion that Rasulullah didn't allow anyone under the age of 15. Means she's supposed to be 15 or more, okay? And then after that I gave you now, right now I'm giving you that Sayyidah Aisha says, it is in Sahih al-Bukhari, that when Surah Al-Qamar has been revealed, she used to play with the girls. She was a young girl playing. Okay, and then when exactly Surah Al-Qamar was revealed, so it is 34th surah before Surah Al-Kahf. And when Surah Al-Kahf has been revealed, it is before the first migration to Ethiopia. And when first migration to Ethiopia took place, it is 5th of the prophethood. Okay, means between Surah Al-Kahf, or between migration to Ethiopia and revelation of Qamar, they're supposed to be as a minimum 2 years. So 2 years before means third year of the prophethood. And then for her to say, I used to be a girl, little girl playing, so she means, and we cannot say 3 or 4 because she will not understand the revelation, you know. So she knew the ayah which has been revealed. Okay, means she was something about 5, 6 as a minimum. Means at the year 3 of the prophethood, means she was 6, means she was born 3 years as a minimum before the prophethood, which fits in with the with Tabari and Ibn Hisham when they say that she was born in Jahiliyyah time. So it is a bit strange actually. It is going very strange direction.
So everybody
Yeah.
believes that they were married 3 years after the engagement.
Yeah.
The second thing that they all agree on.
Yeah.
What's the second thing that they already agree on? There's 2 things that they already agree on.
That there was 10 years between Asma and Aisha.
10 years.
Between Asma and Aisha. No, it's okay. Anyway, inshallah, I'm going to leave all of the references for MDI because it's really nice to know.
And that's 2 things they agree on. That's it.
No.
2 things. These are axiomatic. They only
correct,
believe
yes.
on these 2 things.
Correct, yes.
And they build upon what the evidence.
Exactly, yeah. So then even in terms of the narration between Bukhari and Muslim, there is 1 year difference, isn't it? In the hadith in which both of Bukhari and Muslim narrated, Sayyidah Aisha says, I was 6. And then Imam Muslim brought another narration in which he says, actually I was 7 years old when I was engaged to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and then I brought another thing in terms of the date of death of Sayyidah Aisha, and it came out to be 4 years old. So these are 3 main proofs of the brothers who say that Sayyidah Aisha was 6 years old when she was engaged, and 9 years old when she did move to the place of Rasulullah.
So what I get from the Sheikh is that just because someone reaches puberty, it doesn't mean you can consummate the marriage.
No, there's nothing like that. But wife moves in to the husband's house as soon as she becomes mature, because now husband is responsible to maintain her property, food, clothes, and other things, you know.
So what about these scholars that say that you can marry a girl as soon as she reaches puberty at 9 years old?
Yeah.
What's the
I think I think it's one of our topics.
It's going to be covered later
okay.
because
I need
it's a separate.
time, you know,
I thought
to explain
I thought you
everything.
finished.
No,
there's more.
Yet we are going with the proofs of the second group.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yet we are speaking. Yet we are.
Sheikh, what if someone says, if Ibn Hisham, why didn't he say directly what is her age at marriage? This is just you are deriving this. But he didn't say he just said when she's born. He didn't mention anything about she married at this age. So people might say, well, this is indirect.
Indirect? No, okay, it makes sense for me. But
it's all indirect.
Exactly, no, even for example, you go with any other marriage cases, so not all the time mentioned the age of the people. So I think it does make sense. Why? Because the most important thing is the facts and evidences. Okay, so it could be that, for example, it could be that Sayyidah Aisha will say that, and the most important thing right now, dates in the time of in that age, it didn't used to be known by years, you know. There was not years, but they used to know by the incidents, you know.
Events, yeah.
For example, Rasulullah was born in the year of Fil or after the year of Fil. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, so that's why for me it makes sense more to not to clarify the year, but they would say I was born maybe before the prophethood or after, something like that. But anyway, your question would be valid as to argue. Means all of these narrations which we are bringing, more than 5-6 different narrations, you have to ignore them all only because of Sayyidah Aisha saying that I was 6 and in different narrations 7. Do you understand what I mean? But yet your question is maybe strong as to debate.
Because I know in Dawah, sadly this has come up between Muslims, and they say, look, all of this is debatable. I have a statement from Aisha, so I'm going to listen to Aisha, finish.
Okay.
And if you can't prove to me that, is it Hisham bin Urwa, the guy who narrated it? You know, if you can't prove to me this is wrong, I don't care about even if you bring 100. I don't think their method is correct.
That's what I'm trying to say. So in debate, your point will be very strong, but facts are not avoidable. Do you understand what I mean? Because is there any guarantee that the narration of Sayyidah Aisha is saved 100%? Because even Imam Bukhari, I mean, even for example, Albani did criticize few hadith of the Bukhari, am I right? Okay, so then if he can criticize, so then why is not possible that one will have facts to say that there was some misunderstanding in the narration? Do you understand what I mean? Because there is no any guarantee.
Well, that's a very good point actually, because it goes bigger, you know, like, because most of the people in this country, in my experience, especially in Dawah, even the Dawah carriers, they take Bukhari to be, they don't say, but effectively like Quran. So if a person, an atheist or a Christian apologist says anything about Bukhari, they will say, assume that 100% this happened. So treating Bukhari like everything is mutawatir. They don't say like
there
this.
Is not any mutawatir. Okay, so there is another thing, for example, there is hadith, it is again in Bukhari, one of the Sahaba said, so Rasulullah left 2 of the Sahaba, and they were in the journey, and everyone slept except 2 of them. So then one of them said, okay, look, let's do this. I will take care of the first half of the night, you take care of the next. So they agreed, so the second Sahabi slept and the first one started praying. Okay? And then some of the people, enemies came, and then they said, if everyone is sleeping, so we can kill them all. But then they saw the Sahabi who was praying. So they said, let's kill him first, and then we'll finish off the rest. So then they shot him. Okay, but in the hadith it says that it actually came to that Sahabi and he started bleeding. Okay, but then he carried on praying, and then when disbelievers saw it, they were afraid and they did run away. Okay, so then the second Sahabi, when he woke up, actually he saw the Sahabi bleeding. He said, why you didn't wake me up? So he said, because I was very greedy for me and for you. I was greedy because I wanted to finish off my work, and I was greedy for you because I wanted you to relax. So then they did narrate it to Rasulullah, so Rasulullah did pray. I mean, he made dua for that Sahabi who did this. So then Ibn Hajar says, it is very strange actually, because how Rasulullah would allow, I'm sorry, Badruddin Aini says, how Rasulullah would allow the Sahabi to pray with the filth, because blood would be there. So he said, even if it's in Bukhari, it is strange hadith. That does make sense. But chain is golden. I mean, chain is not untouchable actually. Anyway, so we say these are the actually facts. But one of them being direct and one of them being indirect. So the most important thing is the facts, as well as the possibility of any of the narrations being mistake. It is still there. Anyway, let's revise the rest of them to see what are the proofs of them. So the next proof that is given from the second group. So that is agreed upon, as I said, that there is 10 years between Sayyidah Asma and Sayyidah Aisha. Okay. Now Sayyidah Asma actually passed away when her son has been killed, in about 2-3 months after that. And when her son was killed, it is the year of 73 of Hijrah. Okay, and then she was 100 years old, or 101, something about 100 years old. Okay, so they say, let's take off, means she passed away at the year 73, and then she was 100 years old. Now question, when exactly she will be born? To go with this opinion, please.
So she's born 10 years before Hazrat Aisha.
No. So let's calculate this one. So it means Hijrah is there. Am I right? Hijrah is 73rd of Hijrah, and she was 100 years old. Okay, means when exactly she was born?
27 before Hijrah.
27 before Hijrah. Okay, and then we'll take off minus 13. And what is this 13? It is the prophethood.
Right.
Okay, so that is prophethood. Means 13 years before Rasulullah became prophet. Okay, means Sayyidah Aisha is younger than Sayyidah Asma for 10 years, minus 10. So what will be the number? It will be 3. Means Sayyidah Aisha was born at 3 before the prophethood. Which will again fit with the tafsir of Imam Bukhari, in which he says, when Surah Al-Qamar has been revealed, I used to be girl playing. Do you remember? And Surah Al-Qamar revealed at the year 3 after the prophethood. Means Sayyidah Aisha will be 6 years old when Surah Al-Qamar is revealed. And after 6 years, Rasulullah married her. So then that will be 12 years, and it will not be 6 years. Okay, so according to this, they say that is the calculation actually. That is the calculation, which is 12. So these are very strange numbers actually coming out. And then there is another narration. So inshallah I'm going to leave all of the references, okay, for all of these quotations actually. And there is another narration in which Abu Nu'aym al-Asbahani actually, in his book about the Sahaba, Ma'rifat al-Sahaba, says that Sayyidah Asma was born 27 years before the prophethood. 27 years before the prophethood. Okay? And it is ijma that Sayyidah Aisha is younger than Sayyidah Asma for 10 years. Means Sayyidah Aisha will be born 17 years before the prophethood. And after the prophethood, after 11 years, Rasulullah married her. So according to this, Sayyidah Aisha will be 28 years when Rasulullah married her, and 31 years when she did move into the house of Rasulullah. Okay, these very strange quotations actually. But then question, for me, is also very interesting, because how come that there will be so huge different numbers, but then is only the known opinion that Sayyidah Aisha was 6 years old and 9 years old, you know? So then, recently I had a case in which, for example, Isa alayhi salam praying behind Imam Mahdi, do you know? Means meeting each other, okay? But then, that is the direct meaning of the hadith, wa imamuhum al-Mahdi, etc. So then, but if you go to compare all of the hadith, it never matches. And there is clear-cut hadith in which Rasulullah says that Isa will pray behind the third person, Khalifa, after the main Mahdi. Okay, so how did I get to that statement? Because if you go to see what is happening in the time, whenever Rasulullah speaks about what Isa will do, salam, he never mentions Mahdi. And whenever Rasulullah speaks about Mahdi, he never mentions Isa. Salam. That's one thing. Okay. The second thing, the time of Imam Mahdi, Rasulullah says, تنعم أمتي نعمة لم تتنعم قبلها ولن تتنعم بعدها. Within 7 years of Imam Mahdi, my nation will be enjoying that type of enjoyment which my ummah never did before and will never do after. But then when Rasulullah speaks about Isa alayhi salam, Allah is ordering Isa to take the leftover, remaining alive Muslims to take to Tur Sina. Tur Sina is, it will be one of the hills of Bradford, you know, that size. And that is the whole Muslim nation, means couple of tens of thousands of Muslims. And in that time, one head of a bull will be sold for 20 golden coins. Okay, means hardship, hunger, and thirst. It doesn't match with the period of Imam Mahdi, you know. If you will carry on comparing the ahadith of the events of Isa alayhi salam and the ahadith of the event of Imam Mahdi, okay, so it never matches, you know. In the time of Mahdi, nothing mentioned about Dajjal, okay, or Yajuj or Majuj. Is it possible that Rasulullah speaks about Mahdi, in whose time there will be Isa alayhi salam, Mahdi and Yajuj Majuj, and Rasulullah will say nothing about them? Do you understand? So, the most popular opinion, it doesn't necessarily all the time mean that it is the most reliable. All of the options on the table.
So in your opinion, Sheikh, which one's the most reliable?
So actually, I used to believe, before I made this research, I used to believe that it is 6 years old and 9, that's what used to be my belief. Okay, and then when I started making all of these research, so I say it's very strange. But now I don't believe that this is quite authentic, because there are some certain agreed upon issues which is not matching with this one. For example, 10 years between Sayyidah Asma and Sayyidah Aisha, as well as Sayyidah Asma, when she passed away, her nephew says that she was 100 years old. Okay, and Abu Nu'aym quoting that she was born 27 years before the prophethood. Okay, so I'm giving you the things. So it looks very strange actually.
So effectively we don't know.
No, because even the narrations of the first group is crashing into each other. So they have to give some certain interpretation to bring them together, you know?
Yeah, that's what I get from this. Is that
so far, no certainty is gained, because look, each single thing is giving, as well as, do you know the age? No, for example, Salman al-Farsi. What was his age? So many disagreements. And some say 200, some say 300 years old when he passed away. Some say that he was 200 years when he became Muslim. But then, when you go to the Sahaba, definitely it would be interesting incident that some man from Persia whose age is 200 coming to, and then no one says nothing about it, you know. So then that's what I'm trying to say. So years and age in that time, it was not that important, you know. And even in some of the hadith, Rasulullah says, if you will be asked about your age, from one of the Sahaba, as well as Abu Hanifa advises his students, when you will be asked about your age, do not say it. So, okay, so because if you will look older than what you are, so then people will neglect you. But if you look younger than what you are, so there was some certain thing. So years and ages, as you can see, is not that very accurate actually. So in my own understanding, just to go with this opinion to say 6 is not very matching, as well as to say that she was 28 also doesn't match that much, you know. So I say something between this and that actually.
So we don't know.
There's no certainty. Okay, there
you
is
have
no
to be
certainty.
agnostic about the number. You cannot know.
Because it's not coming. Some accurate number is not coming, you know. Yes.
Sheikh, what about those people, including I believe some non-Salafi scholars?
Yeah.
I may be wrong about the name, but I think it's a good scholar like G.F. Haddad, and they say it's mutawatir, it's mass narrated that she's 6. So they're quite adamant about this.
To say it is mutawatir, so I can say, I'm Michael Jackson. What do you want? You know? But then, meaning of being Michael Jackson, for me, is that. You want, you don't want. So I say, for you guys, mutawatir is whatever you believe. But there are some general understanding of mutawatir. So in each single generation, there should be so big number of people to say that narration is mutawatir. Everything will end up on Sayyidah Aisha and the Sayyidah Aisha is only on her own who says it, you know. Once she says 6, once she says 7. Okay, as well as after her, Tabi'i, who is narrating it, is only 2 or 3. And even Atba'u Tabi'i is also that number, you know. So in the first 3 generations, it was not mutawatir, you know. Do you understand what I mean? So let's suppose that in each single century, there are thousands of people narrating this, but only in one century, only one person, and then it goes back again to the thousands. We say one will finish off all of this tawatur. So in each single century, there have to be number of tawatur. But just to say it is mutawatir, so I say I'm George Bush, you know. Okay, I say I'm Ali ibn Abi Talib. Why? Because my definition of Ali ibn Abi Talib is what I'm saying. Okay, but in terms of the general understanding, I'm not George Bush, as well as I'm not. So according to the general understanding, it's not mutawatir, but maybe they do have different definition. Yeah.
So how much is mutawatir according to the Hanafi Maturidi?
There is no single any number, but it should be the number. Logically, you cannot say that they made up a story or they are all mistaken. Okay, so it will be so 10 is not accepted by Hanafis, but it should be above, much more than 10 that, for example, you cannot. So sometimes it could be 100 of narrators, but all of them from the same street. We say logically it's possible that all of them are mistaken. But it should be, for example, 100 from each different places, you know. Okay, so there is not a specific number, but the most important thing in the tawatur is logically you shouldn't be able to avoid it.
Yeah, Sheikh, Aisha who is responsible for many hadiths, narrations. Isn't there an indication within those hadiths the time that he was married to Rasulullah, and couldn't we not derive from that some kind of knowledge from when she started writing the hadiths? Or when she started
she never wrote hadith, but she narrated them.
Narrated? When they were narrated, could we take some indication from that as to her age and what time she lived?
Maybe you missed our first bit of the hadith. So because, for example, one of the statements, she said, when Surah Al-Qamar has been revealed, I was little girl. Okay, Surah Al-Qamar revealed 2nd or 3rd year after the prophethood. In that time, Sayyidah Aisha was a little girl playing, means 6 years old. Do you understand? Means, according to that, it was not 6 years old when she was married, but 12 years old as a minimum, you know. So you should just go back to the video, because we have spoken about all of these questions. Okay? So, it is a bit strange actually, you know, it is a bit strange, yes.
So Sheikh, I think this talk has been very illuminating, but I'll give you maybe some of the objections which
of course, yes,
non-Muslims and the Muslims will make. So you answered some of them, actually most of them. So the mutawatir, the issue of how can you go against anything in Bukhari and all this. So generally this is, right or wrong, this is how it is in Dawah field in UK at the moment. If something is in Bukhari, 100%, if you go against it, you are like evil. And but the other thing they will say is, okay, the Quran itself, it allows marriage of children even before they are menstruating, for example. So then if Quran is allowing...
Consummating is prohibited Islamically.
So then...
So means it will be just engagement. But then you, for example, let's suppose that I will marry, someone will give birth of a baby girl, I will marry her, okay, but that is agreement, engagement. But when she will start bleeding, only then I will have a right to ask her to live with me, because the adult lady, wife, husband will be responsible to maintain her. Okay, but before that, we say it is one of the sins. Even some of the Hanafi scholars, for example, Birkawi, the author of Ihya Ulumuddin, Hanafi Ihya Ulumuddin, classifies it as major sin.
Right. So
to force to have a sex your immature wife.
Because this is another issue which is brought up in Dawah. People say, yes, according to the scholars, you cannot have sexual relations before puberty. But people say, show me the proof. And you did. So
no, it's not proof. It is only quotation from Hanafi book. But there are hadith and some certain narrations. Inshallah, we'll have a word about it.
Okay.
We need some longer discussion about that. Yes.
So there's still a grey area though, because you're saying that they can come and live when they reach puberty. But when is it allowed to consummate? When do you identify the...
when she will become mature, adult. Means when she will be able. Because physical sign of being mature, it is a sign of the psychological maturity actually. Because what's the meaning of maturity age? When body becomes adult. And body is not separate from the mind, you know. Both live together, so both will reach the age of maturity together, you know.
So if she, so you're saying that 9 she became mature and she lived with Prophet. But so I'm trying to work out. So then, how do, as a fiqh, for example, giving fatwa, how do we say to someone that does not mean that...
No. We don't say that. What I say, there are two problems. One problem, just quoting the hadith saying that, look, it says that he had sex at the age of 9. Hadith never says it. Hadith says that she did move in.
Okay.
That's one thing. That's problem.
Thing,
And the second thing, is it permissible Islamically to have a sex with mature girl? We say yes. And what's the age of maturity? We say 9 is the beginning of the maturity. What's the meaning of beginning? We say as soon as some girl becomes 9, now we expect her to become mature. But what's the meaning of maturity? As soon as she will start bleeding. So some girl can become mature, okay, at the age of 12. But isn't it 9? We say 9 is the first expectation. Means if she will start bleeding at the age of 8, we do not accept it. Because we say the first possible age of the maturity starts from 9.
So when you say possible maturity, you're talking about physical and mental?
Both, yes.
So you're
but as soon as she will start bleeding, so then we look at the age. Is she above 9 or not? If she is less than 9, then that bleeding is not the sign of maturity.
Okay.
But so if it is after 9, we say now she became mature.
Bleeding is not...
no, age is not. No. Age is not maturity, but we say bleeding is the sign of maturity. But then,
sign,
but then condition of the bleeding to be the sign of maturity, we say age.
9.
As a minimum 9.
Okay.
But if some lady, if some girl reached the age of 9, now we are expecting her to start bleeding. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and till the age of 15, if she will not start bleeding, then we say now age is the sign of maturity, because after the age of 15, no one remains as non-mature.
Okay, so say for example she's 9, she's bleeding.
Yeah, now she's mature, yes.
But she's not ready for consummation though.
We say as soon as some girl will start bleeding, we say it is a sign of her being ready and able to consummate sex actually.
Okay.
To have,
so then someone can argue that at 9 they did consummate it.
No. Hadith doesn't say
no,
that.
But I'm saying, I understand that, but I'm saying
yeah.
through what you just said, then one could argue that consummation happened.
Where's the proof? You see, it's not even circumstantial evidence.
But then is it possible? We say Islam is possible.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's possible that the Prophet upon him did consummate that marriage.
Yeah, it is possible. Islam is possible. It is permissible.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
yes.
so that's the issue.
Correct.
That we're saying.
It is permissible. Yes, Islam.
Okay, so therefore, these.
So that's why they did.
So that's
because
why they argue.
Because it is permissible, they did.
Okay, so it's possible and therefore permissible, and that's why they inducted that is the case.
I don't say that. I say
permissibility
these people is not necessary.
Yeah.
So even if it did happen, so Islamically there will not be any problem.
Okay. But would the condition have to be that she is physically and mentally mature?
Sign of that is bleeding.
So bleeding is a sufficient reason for maturity.
Correct, yes.
Holistically.
Correct, yes. In our Islam, according to four madhahib, we say bleeding is the sign of the maturity as long as she did pass the age of 9.
Okay, so then therefore the hadith talking about they moved in together, I don't think that's a strong reason to deny.
No, we're not denying.
I'm just saying.
No, it's not. Of course, it's not reason. But it doesn't mean it is the same thing as to say I did slap someone, but then he died. So if I was say I did slap someone, you do not have a right to take revenge from me by killing. Because I slapped him. Didn't kill him. Slapping doesn't mean killing. Bana alayha doesn't mean to have sex, you know.
No, I understand that.
But I would say that's not a fair deduction, frankly, because basically it's like me saying in this country having sex with a 16-year-old is allowed. So my girlfriend is 16 and she came to my house.
Yeah.
And now definitely you say, well, why would she go to his house? Because in this country there's no such thing of like for sex it's only marriage, right? So let's say I say we have been dating for 2 years. Now she's 16. On her birthday she came to my house and she stayed over. So you say definitely sex must have happened, even though you didn't ask her, you didn't ask me. That's a ridiculous assumption.
The issue is not did it happen or not. The issue.
Okay, so anyway, not yet we are in the proofs of the second group, Okay, so we came up with different numbers in terms of the age of the engagement of Sayyidah Aisha. So then there is another interesting evidence is coming. The book of Al-Isaba fi Ma'rifat al-Sahaba belongs to Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. But anyway, it is agreed upon opinion that there is difference between Sayyidah Fatima and Sayyidah Aisha. There is 5 years difference. So Sayyidah Aisha is younger. Okay, but then when exactly Sayyidah Fatima was born, if you remember, when Rasulullah in the Bina Kaaba, when they were repairing the Kaaba, and Rasulullah was at the age of 35. Let's say 35 as a maximum, just to help out these brothers. Means Rasulullah, and then after 5 years, Sayyidah Aisha was born. Okay, so then what will be the age of Sayyidah Rasulullah when Sayyidah Aisha is born? 40 years. Means when Rasulullah became prophet, Sayyidah Aisha was born. According to that narration, after that, after 10, 11 years, Rasulullah married Sayyidah Aisha, because it was 2 years before the migration. Am I right? And it was 13 years after the prophethood till the migration. So what was the age of Sayyidah Aisha according to this narration of the Isaba of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani? Yes.
So she must have been at least, if she's, so she must have been at least what, 10?
11, yes, as a minimum 10, 11. Why? Because when Rasulullah started the mission at the age of 40, she was born. And then after 11 years, Rasulullah was engaged. Okay, because after 2 years, he did migrate, So it is 11 years old. So it is about 5 years more. And 5 years, we cannot make up that Arabian calculation, It's a bit difficult, actually.
And it might be even more because you said you're taking the best.
Exactly,
35,
yeah.
It might be 30.
Exactly, it could be 30. Okay.
And it's 16 like those guys say.
Exactly, yeah. And also, the calculations are so strange. For example, when exactly Rasulullah was born? The most popular opinion says that after 1 year, after the year of field. There is second opinion which says exactly in the year of field, okay, but the most reliable 1 year before the year of field. So then it was one of the, you can say, pre-miracles of the prophethood of Rasulullah, because Rasulullah was in Mecca already. He was born and he was actually 1 year old when field came, As you can see, even about the date of birth of Rasulullah, there is 3 opinions. So then if there is disagreement about Rasulullah, so what do you think about Sayyidah Aisha and the rest of the Sahaba? Doesn't make sense. Because Arabians, they didn't have set up like a calendar, as Romans and Greek did have, Okay? So that is another very strange thing. As well as there is another thing. Sayyidah Aisha and Usama. Who is Usama? Usama bin Zayd ibn Haritha. So then it's agreed upon opinion that when Rasulullah passed away, Usama bin Zayd, it is in everywhere, all of the sources, Ibn Kathir is mentioning it in Bidayah wa Nihaya, etc. So he was 18, 19 years old. Okay, 18, 19 years old. And then there is hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad and Sunan al-Tirmidhi in which Rasulullah wanted to, Usama bin Zayd came and nose was like, maybe he had flu or whatever, and then Rasulullah stood up to go to wash up his face. Sayyidah Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, I will do it. Okay, and then as we know that Sayyidah Aisha according to the most famous, according to this narration, what will be the age of Sayyidah Aisha when Rasulullah ﷺ passed away? So if in the year of migration she was, let's say, 8 or 9. After 10 years, she was 19. Okay? And Usama bin Zayd, he was 19 years old when Rasulullah passed. So they were equal in the age. So it does make sense that Sayyidah Aisha says, Ya Rasulullah, I will do it. So baby is washing the face of the baby, you know? Or another thing, in the narration of Tirmidhi, Rasulullah did order Sayyidah Aisha to look after Usama bin Zayd. So baby ordered to look after the baby. Does make sense. There have to be age difference, you know? Yes.
When Sheikh, what about the daughters of the Prophet, peace be upon him? When he married Aisha, if she was only 9, wouldn't his daughters have been older than her?
No,
or same age, or?
No, according to the last narration that I mentioned, Sayyidah Fatima would be only 5 years older than Sayyidah Aisha.
So basically the aim of Rasul, he marries someone to take care of household who is younger than...
Exactly, yes. So according to the last point, that's what it will be. Again, even if we'll go with that one, it will go against this, you know, because we said it will be 11 years. Okay, so it is, it's a bit strange actually. So then anyway, Rasulullah said to Sayyidah Aisha, oh Aisha, you should love and respect Usama because I love him. Okay, and Rasulullah did order her to look after Usama bin Zayd because his face was dirty, he fell down. So then it's not possible that you will ask the girl at the age of 11 to wash the face of the boy at the age of 11 also. You will ask someone older than the second person. So it is another strange evidence also. And maybe the last thing we would mention, it is very well known that before Rasulullah married Sayyidah Aisha, she was already engaged.
Yeah.
Okay, she was already engaged. And from this hadith actually you can understand that, let's suppose that she was engaged. And we say that according to the first opinion, at the age of 6 she was already, she was engaged to Rasulullah. Okay, and the hadith in which Abu Bakr as-Siddiq narrates, okay, how this engagement happened, he says that my daughter was engaged and I don't want to break my agreement. So that hadith quotes that the first engagement of Sayyidah Aisha, it was long ago. So anything, there are two main things. Most likely, in my own understanding, maybe I will be very weak in terms of stating my understanding. It was before the prophethood of Rasulullah that engagement took place. Why? Because Mut'im ibn Adi, he's mushrik person and he died as a mushrik, you know. Okay, as well as his son Jubair was also in that time mushrik. Why? Because when Abu Bakr as-Siddiq went to Jubair, Mut'im ibn Adi, to actually find out what is going on with the engagement, so Abu Bakr went and then Mut'im said, I don't know anything about the engagement, but whatever my wife decides, that's what is going to happen. Then his wife replied by saying, oh, Abu Bakr, I'm really afraid if I will marry off my son to your daughter, you are going to convert my son into Muslim. Means in that time, Jubair ibn Mut'im was not Muslim, you know. Okay, so then we say love of Abu Bakr towards Rasulullah and him being committed with the Islam from the day one. I don't believe that he did engage his daughter to non-Muslim after Abu Bakr becoming Muslim. It should be before the Islam. Okay, means Sayyidah Aisha was already engaged before the Islam already, you know. Means for her to be engaged before Islam, at least she supposed to be born, you know. Let's say she was only breastfeeding baby 1 year old before Islam. So then according to that narration, she will be something about 11, 12 years again when she was engaged to Rasulullah.
Engaged. So it is actually, now you mention it, it's very strange. So Abu Bakr being so committed to Islam,
and then marrying off
to a non-Muslim.
To non-Muslim, yes.
That would be ajib.
No, for me it's ajib.
Yeah.
So I cannot. But then even the prohibition of this type of marriage came slightly after that. But as you know, Abu Bakr was acting as a Muslim even before the Islam. Do you know?
No.
And his love to Rasulullah and him being committed by his wealth and by everything, I don't accept that he did marry off his daughter to the idol worshipper. Especially, he never worshipped the idol by himself. You know. So definitely, I say this engagement took place definitely before Islam, before Rasulullah started the mission, you know. So it is strange evidences, you know. So for me, it's not strange because the dates, calendar, and the ages they didn't have any, you know, in the Arabian like peninsula in that time. Okay, so anyway, the various other things. Various other issues, maybe it would help out somehow. For example, do you know, one issue being non-acceptable in one culture, it doesn't mean that I can judge by using my culture upon you. Do you understand what I mean? So for example, in our culture, is not do you know, sneezing, even in the tissue, in front of the people, is disrespectfulness. In my culture, in Uzbekistan, you know. But then in other cultures, it's fine as long as you are sneezing in the tissue paper. Am I right? So then one noble person in the UK sneezes. So do I have a right using my culture saying he's evil man? He's not noble. It's incorrect. Am I right? So then let's revise the culture of the Arabians in terms of. Marriage cases. It's very famous thing. For example, as you know, Sayyid Umar radiallahu anhu made proposal to Sayyidah Fatima, am I right? And then Abu Bakr also did proposal to Sayyidah Fatima. And both of Abu Bakr was at the age of Rasulullah, 2 years younger. Okay, and then but then Umar made proposal radiallahu anhu to Sayyidah Fatima. Okay, but then Sayyidah Fatima married Ali radiallahu anhu, and after that Sayyidah Fatima gave birth of Sayyidah Zainab. Okay, and then Umar radiallahu anhu made proposal to the daughter of the lady to whom he made proposal, and he married her daughter, you know. From here one understand that it was just a normal custom and accepted tradition. Yeah, as well as do you know Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of Rasulullah, he married Hala, who was actually related to Sayyidah Amina. Okay, Sayyidah Amina, the mother of Rasulullah. So he married to Hala, and actually she was at the age of something between 5 to 7. And Abdul Muttalib, you know, by that age he was over 50, 60, you know. Okay, so from there we can understand actually, that it was the age issue in that culture, there was no any problem. As well as, for example, Qudama bin Mad'un married the daughter of Zubair ibn al-Awam when she was born. Exactly in the same day when she was born. Engagement, you know. Yeah, so as you can see, in terms of the age barrier, it would not be any problematic in that culture. So, using our culture to judge upon the people of other cultures is not correct. Because what is wrong? Wrong is when you oppose your own culture incorrectly, you know. But if you accord your culture, but disagree and oppose culture of others, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong.
Sheikh, that's quite interesting. So that would mean then, within this current culture, that you wouldn't be allowed to do that because they don't.
Culture in Hanafi Madhab, for example, one of the sources of Islam. Okay, but then we say that only when it doesn't crash, culture doesn't crash into the Islam. For example, in Egypt, they did scholars, Sheikh al-Azhar and other Grand Mufti, for so long time they issued fatwa that as long as there is difference of 20 years between husband and wife, marriage will be not valid. It's not permissible, based on your case actually, because custom doesn't allow that. Okay, so we Hanafis, we take the culture if it doesn't crash into the Sharia actually. Okay, anyway, briefly let's revise whatever we did cover today. So in terms of Sayyidah Aisha being at the age of 6 when she was engaged to Rasulullah, it is a narration of Bukhari and Muslim from Sayyidah Aisha. And then Imam Muslim narrated another narration from Sayyidah Aisha again, saying that she was at the age of 7. Okay, and then we did calculate from the date of death of Sayyidah Aisha, okay, from their source, and it was the age of 4 when she was engaged. And then we did revise different other proofs from different books. So one of them was Tabari and Ibn Hisham confirming the date of birth of Sayyidah Aisha. They said in Jahiliyyah. Okay, and in terms of Sayyidah Aisha being one of the first earliest Muslims, okay, within the first 3 years before Umar radiallahu anhu, as well as Hafiz al-Maqdisi said in the first year of the prophethood. Okay, after that Badr, Sayyidah Aisha being part of Badr, after that Sayyidah Aisha being part of Uhud, and after that the difference between Sayyidah Asma and Aisha, the rest of the proofs. Actually, so all of them are giving totally different non-matchable things. Okay, as well as the brothers and sisters who studied the Sirah, do you remember the issue of the ifk? When they insulted Sayyidah Aisha. Okay, so if you read that story properly, so according to this narration, Sayyidah Aisha will be at the age of 12. But how she was responding and how she was dealing, so it is description of that will match with the lady who will be something about 25, 35 years old lady. How she's responding to what people say and how she's acting. So the lady aged 12 wouldn't do that type of conversations and dialogues with the Prophet and with her parents and with the rest of the people. You know, so it is quite problematic thing. So for me, after researching all of these proofs, I say it's not very easy to accept this thing, you know. Even though before that I was 100% confident.
It's quite strange to say that a girl of 9 achieves maturity, full stop, because these days it's about 12, 13, unless she was an exceptional case. It's quite early.
You know, we say the maturity age will start from 9, okay, as a maximum 15. So any time within this time, within this period.
Yeah, but is that based on that though?
Which one?
On this, is it based on those hadith? Because maturity, you said when you're menstruating.
Yeah, that's the sign, yes, correct.
But where did they get the 9 from? Is it because of that?
That type of a hadith, yes, correct.
So then that's just already believing in that to sort of demonstrate that it's true. But maturity is quite strange for a 9-year-old to start believing it. 9-year-old. Usually, what we have is sort of 12.
No, I'm not saying this is the thing, but I say this type of ahadith, which indicates the age of 9. For example, the kid will be in order to pray, for example, at the age of 7, and then 9 is there also, you know, the age of 9 is included in there, you know.
Right.
And then your daughter and son, they can sleep together in one bed till the age of, for example, 7, and after that they will be separated, you know. So the age of the minimum age of maturity is taken from many ahadith,
okay, right,
not this one only.
I
Many ahadith in which number 9 mentioned.
Okay.
So Sheikh, it's been very interesting and thorough actually. It shows how much actually people are answering without having knowledge in other fields. So just one last thing I wanted to ask you. Some unfriendly Christians, they like to use there is a narration of Hazrat Aisha that she brought her dolls into the house of Rasulullah. She had her dolls or her toys. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
so
I know that. I don't know how authentic, but I know that thing.
So they say, and that she was playing on a swing as well. There's something similar like this. So they say this is proof that she was just a child when she went to, because only a child would play with swing or only a child would play with doll. I mean, to me that doesn't make sense anyway.
Okay, so I really would love to meet these Christian people because I did have an experiences because I made proposal to the ladies, you know, and married them. Okay, not them. Okay, I married my wife, for example, and then it's for example, it's very common that you give some dolls, you know, to the lady at the age of 25 also. Do you understand what I mean? And I would ask these Christians if they have daughters at the age of 20, so if they will give them a gift of a doll. So if their daughters will say, oh come, then I say you are right. But if they say, if they will take it and will be happy, I say that's the proof, you know.
Yeah.
It does make sense.
And actually, there's even some men who play with models and, you know, Gundam and those robots. We make them and we keep them on our shelf.
So then it's not limited on the age of 6 or 5. Do you understand what I mean? So even I know some of my relatives, actually, someone who's related, some lady who's related to me. Her husband actually gave her the, do you know the Winnie the Pooh?
Winnie the Pooh, yeah.
She's 31 years old and she sleeps with the Winnie the Pooh, you know? I swear by the name of God. And that is beside to another bears, you know? Each of the bears reminds her with something, and the last one, which is the close one, is from her husband, you know? For us it's strange, but ladies do it, you know? 31, she's not 31 years old. Still she sleeps with 3 bears, and the closest one to hug is that her husband's bear, Winnie the Pooh, you know?
So,
Sheikh, about dolls, I heard it's not allowed in Islam to have dolls.
No, it's correct, no. Idol, monument. But doll for the is permissible, yes.
Because I heard that Allah will ask you to make it alive.
That is monument. But for the baby, for the baby it's permissible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can have like dolls and eyes and all that.
As for the babies, no? There are some Sahaba who gave to their daughters the dolls and they used to play with it, and it's permissible, yes.
And animals as well.
Sorry?
Animals like
animals, human beings, dolls.
Yeah, dolls.
We say fine, but if it's monument or picture art, we say then it's not permissible.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's all for today about this matter, inshallah.